I'm really excited about today's guest. It's Jordan Matter, and he is a accomplished photographer who morphed into being one of the top influencers out there. He has over 14 million subscribers on YouTube, over 5 million followers on TikTok, and over 2 million on Instagram. Now, his path was not the normal route to becoming an influencer. He started off, as we will discuss, in a very unlikely way from a baseball player in college to then going through the artistic route and now ending up where he's at as a full-time influencer. We talk about many insights about life, about influencing, about parenting, and how to balance this and how to pursue your passion, and also tips and tricks along the way. I think you're really going to love this episode. Jordan, you're such a fascinating person, and there's so much to talk about, and I've been really looking forward to this. I always play a video, and we're going to do that too, but I think let's first get to know you. If you could take us back to how you got to where you are and going back in time, maybe not back to the womb, but, you know.
Yeah, that would take us a couple of days to talk about all that. I'm not young.
But I think it's just so amazing. Like, your father is a very well-known director. Your grandfather was a successful photographer, even working for the Kennedy administration. And you started off wanting to do baseball, but that's not where you're at. So take us back.
Yeah, I played baseball in college. I was raised by artists. My mother was a flutist. She was a model also. My dad was a filmmaker. And my grandfather is really well known, as was my grandmother. She was a painter, and he was a graphic artist and photographer. So I come from a long line of artists. And when I went to college my freshman year, I signed up to be an economics major because I'd seen the roller coaster ride that is the life of an artist and the ups and downs financially. And I didn't want, because I experienced that as a child, and I didn't want to have that life. So I signed up for economics, and I went to one semester, and it's like, this is not for me. I was also playing baseball at the same time, and I ended up getting a baseball scholarship to college. I played through college, and then when I was done with college, I wasn't really sure what to do. But I knew I liked performing, and I had gotten into theater when I was in college as well. And I started acting, and I did acting for several years until I got bit by the photography bug. So that's like a 30-second synopsis. I can from that moment, I was probably about 30 when I really got into photography. And from that moment on, that's been my obsession until jump forward 20 something years. I'd been doing a great photography career. I had 3 best-selling books, photography books, and I did portraiture in New York. And then I became a YouTuber. And initially, the YouTube content was photography driven. And so I was photographing dancers as a way to create content for books. And so I started documenting that process for YouTube as basically as a way to prove that the photos were real. Because the dancers were so spectacular that you couldn't believe people could actually do that. So I started
so people were actually questioning the validity
all over it, because the social media was coming right around that time. Facebook first, and then Instagram a little bit, but mainly Facebook. And I posted and get a lot of hate about how I was manipulating my photos. So I started posting videos to prove it. And initially I was posting them on Vimeo. It's like nobody saw them on Vimeo. Right. And my creative partner, who's still creative partner to this day, said, why don't we post them on YouTube? And by the way, if you can get 10,000 subscribers on YouTube, we can get access to their studio for free once a month. And it's like, how am I going to get 10,000 subscribers? Nobody's going to watch this. It's just behind the scenes photography. That's so boring. But I came up with a way to do a challenge. And the challenge was a 10-minute photo challenge, where I see how many photos I can get in 10 minutes of an exceptional dancer. And we go in the middle of New York City with no plan at all and just run around and take awesome photos for 10 minutes, then stop. And there was something about that. And it was just the right time and place. It just caught on. So suddenly we're trying to figure out YouTube. Like, okay, how do we, what are the rules? I didn't know that you could make money on it. I had about 500,000 subscribers before somebody said to me, do you do AdSense? And I was like, what's AdSense? I had no clue that I could make any money. And then also, I didn't know what collabs were. like collaborations, right? And everybody would comment, you should collab with this person. I was like, what's a collab? So we started figuring it out. And from that moment, I Googled, when's the best time to post a video on YouTube? And it said Thursday at noon. So every week for 3 years, we posted a video Thursday at noon. We moved it to Saturdays eventually. And for 5 years, every week, 5.5 years, we've only missed 2 uploads in 5 years. And we've never taken a week off. Those 2 uploads were just because the video wasn't ready yet. and we've been consistent, and we just built a following. And then there was a pivotal moment where I remember this really clearly, remember this. I have a son and daughter. My son has always been into this, so he would come with me sometimes. My daughter wasn't. She's a gymnast. And I remember I was shooting and I heard this girl's voice. It was like, "Daddy, Daddy." And I looked over and it was some girl running up to her dad. And I just realized, like, I'm missing them a lot because I'm working so much. So I did a video with her so that I could spend time with her that day. And that did well. And I did another one that did well. And what happened was the channel had been built on collaborations. Every week I photographed a different person. And I always was at the whims of other people. Like, the video was only as popular as the person I was photographing.
Okay.
So it became from dancers to famous people. Charlie D'Amelio, Addison Rae, all these famous people. And if I could get a famous person, I'd get a lot of views. If they weren't famous, I'd get less views. It's exhausting. And then suddenly my daughter started becoming that person. And so then it was an opportunity for us to hang out. And also the audience started expanding because they were identifying with her. And the content shifted from photography to father-daughter stuff.
So it's interesting because now your son is also involved too, right?
He's been involved from the beginning. I'll tell you a great story about him. This is going to go back and forth. I don't think we're going to be chronological in this conversation.
Okay.
But really great story. He kind of inspired everything. First of all, when he was 4, he was playing with his toy bus. I was a photographer doing headshots for actors, trying to find a way to do a project, some project that would be more meaningful than just a portrait. And I'm watching him play with his bus, and I stop and I'm like, I'm so ready to move on to the next thing. But he's immersed in this small little moment in his life. And I thought, is there a way to photograph that passion? And I suddenly thought, if I could take a dancer and recreate everyday life, I could show the world as if through the eyes of a child. Because as we get older, we zip past all the small things and we only focus on the big ones. You know, getting your partner married, getting a career, getting a promotion, going on the vacation, like the big events. But the day to day, how you get to work, was that a beautiful journey? So I took a dancer out into the middle of New York City and I went to the Times Square subway and I had him wear a suit. And I took a photo of him in a split leap as if he's running late for work. And everything was clear to me. Like, that is beautiful in the midst of this ugly urban environment. And I made a book about it called Dancers Among Us, and it became a bestseller. And then 2 follow-up books that were also bestsellers. And as a result of that, I started doing YouTube. So had I not seen my son play with that toy bus and been inspired by his passion, I never would have photographed dancers, and I would not be doing YouTube now. It all started with him. And then when I started doing YouTube, and he was 12 at that point, so this was 8 years later, and I started doing YouTube, and he goes, "All right, Dad, look, if you're lucky enough to have success on YouTube, it's because you found a lane. But if you stay in the lane too long, people are going to get bored and they're going to leave. But if you get out of your lane, people are going to they're not going to like it and they're going to leave. So you have to find a way to expand your lane while staying in your lane." I was like, okay. I had no idea what that meant. But that's the path I've always followed on YouTube, is how to gradually expand the lane. So every year, there's a little bit more content that we can create, and there's more of an audience, and there's more views, and there's more interest by continuing to expand. Because a lot of times the lifespan of a creator is like boom, boom. You know, you peak, and then you keep trying to do the same thing, and then as you go down, you don't know what else to do, so you do the same thing until you crash. And we've had a lot of longevity because we've pivoted and expanded.
And also, as a photographer, just to be accomplished in that field is, like, as you say, over 1.5 million to 1 odds.
Yeah.
So, like, just in
Yeah.
and of itself, like, ignore even the influencer social media component.
Right.
So there had to have been some moments where you felt like, giving up or etc.
Oh
So
yeah. Of course.
there's a video I want to play. And usually we talk about health videos, but I think, your story and you and your family are just so interesting and instructive that I want to play a non-health video, and then we can talk
Hmm.
about it. And maybe you can share if some of this resonates with you back in the early days, or even now for that matter,
Sure.
with challenges that you have. So yeah, let's just play this video. This is from TikTok.
Listen to me, bro. If you're tired, if you're worn out, if you're stressed, if you feel like quitting, if you're exhausted, that's good. I know it doesn't feel like it now, but it's good. It's not meant to be easy. People who have easy lives don't get out of bed every day. They hate themselves. They don't accomplish anything. That's what you get. That's what you get if you have an easy life.
We're declaring this tonight.
You have to earn what you want. You have to earn what you're after. Nothing good comes easy. But do yourself a favor and stay with it. Don't quit, man. That's what everyone else does. Stay with it. See it through. You'll be amazed what's on the other side.
So how does that hit you, Jordan, when you hear those words and messages?
I mean, there's a lot of different perspectives I have on that. It's a great marketing tool, by the way, for them, for the Army. But I think for me, I believe in that message. I was an only child. I was raised by addicts. Both of my parents were addicts, and they struggled with addiction throughout their lives, not constantly, but throughout. They were also separated, so it's bouncing back and forth between them. And they were up and down financially. So one minute we have nowhere to live, and the next minute they have money, and going back and forth and living in a new place every 6 months. And so there was a lot of resilience that I learned as a result of that upbringing. I often wonder, like, I'm raising kids. I'm not an addict. My wife and I are together. Are they going to learn that same resilience? Are we making it too easy? How do you fake it if you're not struggling financially or emotionally? And so that's an ongoing question. And so that does resonate with me. I was an athlete, and I know what it takes to get to peak athletic form. And there's a lot of hard work and dedication. And I think that the biggest thing for me, though, to relate to what I do currently, is that when I decided to be a photographer, I had no money. I was a waiter. I said to my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, or my fiance, I said, I think I want to take a photography course because I might be interested in that. But it's going to take all of my savings to get the course. And she said, you should try it because you never know what might happen. So I took a course with in black and white printing. And when I saw the print come up in the developer, I had this hallelujah moment where I felt like, this is it. But of course, it's not Hollywood, and this is it doesn't mean I'm suddenly making money. So I had years of struggle where I couldn't figure out how to take that passion and turn it into financial gain. So I continued to wait tables and act while I was trying to figure out how to make it a career. And there were many, many times that I wanted to quit. And even when I did the book, Dancers Among Us, I'll tell you, this is the hardest story about that. But my son was young. My daughter was just born. And I would go to work. I would do my headshots. And then rather than go home, I would go to New York, downtown, or I would go elsewhere to photograph for my project. And nobody was paying attention to this project. Nobody cared. But I felt like it was something special. And this was a year of nobody caring. And I would go several times a week to photograph it. And I would get calls, texts from my wife like, oh, your daughter crawled today. Or, oh, the kids want to say goodbye, good night to you before they go to bed. And I'm still out shooting. And I'm not getting paid to shoot. I'm just there because I believe in the project. And I can't tell you how many times when I got that call, I wanted to just say, I can't shoot today, and go back home and tuck my kids in. But I felt strongly enough about it that I felt like I had to see it through to see if it would become something. And it was 2 years before I got a book deal. So for 2 years, I was thinking, was this smart? Did I just waste 2 years of being a parent? But fortunately, I stuck through it, because had I not, I mean, nothing that I do now would have happened had I not stuck through it and made that book.
So definitely you had times where you felt the family tugging and you had to make that decision and invest in your career.
Yeah.
Were you also doing headshots at the time? Were you
just
solely non-paid photography?
No, I was doing headshots, and that was in and of itself a full-time job. I mean, before I had my son, I was doing it 7 days a week. And after I had my job, had him, I was doing 7 days a week. And then I cut down to 6. But the finances were there because I was doing that. I couldn't justify also doing the project, because I was providing, I was making money so that we could have a life. And then the project was extra because I saw that I want to go further. And I think a lot of times what happens with people is they have a dream and they have a job, and those two things are not connected. So they do their job because they need to do their job, but the dream puts on hold because they want to go socialize. They want to see their family. They want to be with their kids. They want to take a vacation, and they can't do that and also do their dream. I wanted to do all those things too, but I chose the dream over those things. And the only part that was really hard was my family. I could give up socializing, vacations, football, whatever. But when I couldn't see my kids or I couldn't see my wife, that was really hard. And those were the parts that made me wonder whether or not I should be doing it.
Well, it's really fortunate she was so supportive of you pursuing your dream. And
of course.
Did you have any time frame? It was after 2 years you finally got the book deal where things started to happen. Did you put a time frame on in terms of?
No. No time frame.
Yeah.
And by the way, the project was dead in the water. I did 2 years, and it got pitched to every book deal, and they all loved the photos but said it would never sell. So they all passed. And it was months that it seemed like it was dead. And then one more publisher reached out and they gave me a shot, and it ended up being a bestseller. And after it's a bestseller, I said to them, do all those publishers that passed, do they all know it's a bestseller? And they said, oh, absolutely, they know it's a bestseller. It's very satisfying.
That sounds almost like J.K. Rowling, Yeah,
I know her story.
Harry Potter.
I tell it often when I give talks. It's a great story.
Yeah. And interestingly enough, with Harry Potter, it was only because that agent had a daughter, and he had no idea about this, but he gave the manuscript to his daughter and said, what do you think? And she loved it. So that gave him the confidence to greenlight the first book there.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's amazing.
So what advice then would you have for people as they're trying to pursue their dream, which may not be necessarily what their daytime job is?
It's hard to give advice on something like that. You kind of have to make that decision for yourself. The only thing I would say is that I think that there's a certain amount of regret I've always been afraid of living with. And the regret comes from not having done everything I could to fulfill my dreams. And I spoke about my family and my parents being addicts, but I don't want to misrepresent that, because they also were artists and they were passionate. And so everybody I saw in my life was pursuing a dream that was not stable. And that's where the financial insecurity came from. But when I compared that to somebody who doesn't love their job, but does it only for money, and I know a bunch of people like that, there seems to be a void there that I didn't want to feel. So I always felt like I needed to go after it. The thing was, I had it with headshots. I didn't dislike it. I really enjoyed it. I just thought there was even more. So my feeling is you get one shot. And if you're fortunate enough to have skills and passion for something and you don't pursue it, you're not doing yourself justice. But that's easy to say. I also would never advocate for, especially if you have a family, like suddenly quitting everything and putting them at, dire straits to pursue something. It's a hard decision.
Right. And did you feel at some point, now that you've gone into, more the influencer realm and expanded to there, which takes up even more time too. Are you still shooting headshots as well and doing?
Not anymore. No.
Okay. So would you say, are you doing any photography for
No.
clients?
Now, there were 3 years of YouTube with, as if I wasn't busy before. I was doing 1 video a week and full-time headshots for 3 years because I didn't trust, even though YouTube was doing well, I didn't trust it was permanent. And when you build something up like a head, I had a really good business. I was paid well for each shoot. I had a waiting list, and I was the guy. I was the guy for Actor Headshots. So to walk away from that for something as insecure as an algorithm, just like,
oh my gosh,
like,
what a way to put it.
Right. So it took me a while to realize I haven't put my everything into YouTube. And if I put my everything into it, it might be exceptionally better. So I've had a bunch of moments in my life where things have been pretty good, but I wanted them to be better. And I took the leap to make them better. But with that leap, I was risking the pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I did it anyway. And it's worked out.
And so now being full-time YouTuber influencer, do you find you had in the process challenges with a balance with family life? Because your children, they're still young. They're not emancipated to higher education, if that's even in the cards. But like, how did you learn that balance? And did you find sometimes it was just almost maybe going back to not being present enough as much as you would have liked?
Initially, yeah, because of course, with every ambition, it takes time, mental energy, emotional energy, and just time to go do it wherever it is. So yes, until the last COVID is what changed it all for me, honestly. Because before that, I was in New York and we would fly all over the place to do collaborations. We fly to Los Angeles a lot to do collaborations. Then I was doing my headshots and everything. And when COVID came and everything shut down, it gave me a chance to reassess. And also, I was with my family at that point all the time. And I realized this is what I need. So I made a lot of adjustments so I could be with them more. And part of those adjustments were moving to LA so that I would be where the collaborators were. So I didn't have to fly here. And also not doing headshots anymore so I could be here. So now I'm with them all the time. And I have been for the last 3 years. All the time. And I work with my daughter every week. So literally all the time. So I'm making up for a lot of lost time, I think.
Oh, that's got to be great for them too, and just for everybody. Yeah, for sure. Did your wife is with you too? She moved for practice too?
Yeah, well, she's a vet, but she doesn't practice. So she's the supportive one here that like makes sure everything is working in order.
Okay. You need a backbone. Everybody needs a backbone.
Yes, she's the backbone.
So let's talk about your children now. What does their future look like? What's their involvement? Are they thinking of following in the influencer footsteps as a gig?
Once again, it's a risk, but they're young. She's 13 and he's 17, so they're not that young, right? I mean, 17 is you're on your way.
Right.
His ambition is 100% YouTube.
Okay.
And so it's a mixed bag, right? Like, is that because I do it? Probably. But also, it's the number one ambition for the great majority of people his age. He's just fortunate enough that he is both very gifted at it and also surrounded by other people who are immersed in it. So he gets a lot of stimulation that others wouldn't get. Most people, when they want to be a YouTuber and they're a teenager, they watch YouTube and then they try to figure it out. He's with me everywhere I go. I take him. So if I went to Dubai twice, he's with me. Salish, my daughter doesn't want to go because she's a gymnast, but he wants to be everywhere. Everybody knows if I'm invited to a party, it's a +1 with my son. So he knows everybody. Like if we could go to a creator conference, he knows more people than I do. So so of course he's going to be interested in it because also he's surrounded by it. It's also insecure, as we just discussed. And as a parent, I can see it two ways. One is you should go to college like everyone does, and then you should find a path that is more predictable. But what is predictable anymore? To be honest, we can have a whole conversation about what predictable is. I was just at a conference recently that brought in OpenAI, I'm like, okay, well, everything's changing. And in a year, whatever conversation we have is going to look vastly different than it does now. So how to predict what predictable is already hard. Two, you see a kid with passion, stays up till 3 a.m. editing something. Do I pull him out of that and push him towards something he's not passionate about because that's the direction that you're supposed to go? And my vote is no. You let him find his path. So that's his journey currently. And for my daughter, she really enjoys making videos with me because it's fun. And she has, because she's such a significant part of the channel, she has a percentage of the channel that is financial in a trust fund for her for later. So she is, unbeknownst to her, really, she never thinks about it, putting money away for her future for whatever she chooses to do. And her passion is making videos and even more doing gymnastics.
So she, I mean, gymnastics is a full-time commitment almost for kids these days. How many hours a day?
Yeah, it's 4 hours a day. 4 hours.
Okay. Okay. And then going to tournaments, of course, as well.
Yep. Oh, she kills. I call it tournaments because we always have baseball tournaments, actually competitions. And I always say tournaments, and then she gives me a hard time about that. So they're competitions.
So there's still much to learn for us from Gen Z.
Yes.
Even as influencers. For all the platforms out there to be able to monetize, it seems YouTube is probably the easiest because you've got ads coming in.
Right.
There's direct revenue that can be shared.
Yeah.
The other platforms seem to not be as easy to monetize because they just don't have the advertisers. What's your take on that?
It's
or the
not
future?
on the advertisers. It's that the videos are too short to be able to put an ad on. Because you're not going to watch a 30-second video with a 15-second ad. So YouTube isn't necessarily easy so much as that there's more revenue built into the content. But TikTokers and short form creators can make a lot of money, but they do it with brand deals. So you see a lot of very creative brand deals now that you don't even realize are brand deals. And those people might make 6 figures for one TikTok, which is 30 seconds. So there's a lot of money in it. It's just not with the AdSense.
So it's like through branding. But also TikTok has a creators fund. And what I've noticed is that the amount each month you get from the creators fund has gone down pretty dramatically over time. I think as more people got into the fund, that pie, the pieces of the pie get smaller and smaller for each person. So now,
and that's what's going to happen with Shorts too. Shorts, the YouTube version is launching February 1st, a creators fund. This is supposed to rival TikTok, or actually probably blow it out of the water initially. The question is, how long can it last? And I think what's happening is there's obviously a battle between TikTok and YouTube. And YouTube has seen a significant percentage of their viewers go to TikTok. So they're trying to get them back with Shorts. But the real money they make is on long form content. So I think what they're hoping is that they get them away from TikTok by incentivizing creators to make more content on YouTube. And then once the viewers are on YouTube, they'll watch the long form and see the ads.
So
that's
remains to
probably
be seen. But and how about Instagram? Do you work on Instagram as well?
Again, it's brand deal stuff, right? I mean, it's all the same. It's like where do you get the most engagement, and then that's where the brands want you to be. Whether or not it's YouTube, most of our brand deals are YouTube, and then usually what will happen is a YouTube brand deal will have a TikTok component. So you'll do a long form brand deal or a short form brand deal, and then also put a portion of that on TikTok.
So that's a good way to repurpose the content.
Yeah, I mean, just like revenue generating for a creator can be very significant, and there's a lot of different ways to do it. It all starts with having an audience, but you don't have to have a massive audience. You have to have a dedicated audience. So we have a pretty large audience. We have almost 15 million subscribers, and we have maybe 5 billion views on our videos. So that's a large audience. But to some brands, automobile repair channel that has 100,000 passionate viewers might be more interesting. And there's a lot of channels that have far less subscribers who get massive brand deals because their subscribers are enthusiastic and older and willing to spend money if the creator tells them to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times people look at these numbers and they say, wow, Mr. Beast has 120 million subscribers, or this person has 10 million, and I only have 100. What am I supposed to do? Find the thing that you're really good at that's a niche. Niche creators are the new thing. They really are. And you build up 100,000, 200,000 followers over time, and you make them really engaged with your content, really care about you. And then you can get a lot of sponsorships as a result.
Actually, I talked a bit about this in my book, Influenced, The Impact of Social Media on Our Perception. When I was flying to New York for a TV interview, that's where we met, actually, on the plane, going to New York. So, yeah, for sure, engagement with the audience is really important. And there's even metrics that people can use, third-party metrics that brands can look at to see if somebody's even faking or fudging, like the number of likes and followers, et cetera, because they can look at engagement metrics too. So engagement's really important.
It is, yes. Yeah, you can't really fake stuff as much anymore.
Yeah, it's harder, but still, I get stuff all the time on Instagram, DMs for people. Oh, I can grow your platform. I mean, at least
Well, they can, but it's just temporary because it's all bots. And then whichever platform you're trying to grow on will discover you using bots, and then they'll ban you from it. So it's like, yeah. Don't even bother trying, really.
Yeah. So anybody, if you're getting these DMs from people promising to grow your platform, just do the hard, old school way. It's going to be safe, and your account won't get in trouble. For sure.
There's a lot of videos about how to grow your platform that are real. I mean, there's real ways to grow a platform in terms of audience engagement, in terms of content selection and frequency of uploads, and understanding the algorithm and looking at your analytics. I mean, all that's real. Spend some money and suddenly you have subscribers. That's not real.
Right. And they actually check for that now. Like you said, like they'll know there's farms out there that people are getting.
It's actually an interesting way that some people think they can sabotage channels, to be honest. Like if I didn't like you and I wanted to ruin your channel, I could pay for bots to spam you with comments and likes and subscribers, and then YouTube would punish you, right? Like that's a whole
okay.
Whole, like YouTube terrorism thing.
That's getting into warfare there.
Yeah. So don't make anybody mad.
Right. Well, like Ben Franklin says, life is much more pleasurable for people who get along with others than those who don't. So
that's true. I believe in that.
So what advice would you have? Because I'm sure there's people that are watching, listening, that want to grow their platform in a healthy way, productive way. What would be some tips from the experience you've seen with yourself and also through your kids' experiences too?
Consistency and understanding what makes you unique and doing that. There's a lot of copycat stuff or trend jacking on YouTube and other platforms where you find stuff that's working for somebody else and you try to do it for yourself for a quick fix to get some views. Mm-hmm. But the long term is to find something unique about yourself and then continue to tell that story every week. And what is engaged? Not everybody is meant to be on camera, by the way. Not everyone is meant to have a platform. You need to have something to say to have a platform. So first, what is it you have to say? And when I say not everybody is meant to be, what I mean is not everybody is offering the audience something that is of value.
Mm-hmm.
So then why am I watching? Everybody could, though. We all have value. But if you're just trying to be somebody else, you're not going to offer that value. So then my number one thing is be yourself, find out what's interesting about yourself, stay consistent, and continue to reward your audience by letting them get to know you deeper and deeper.
So when you say for the audience getting to know you deeper, so revealing some personal aspects of your life then?
It's the reason that I guess we'll call creators influencers. I like creator better, but whatever. The reason creators are the new movie stars is because you invite them into your home.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Beast, one of the most popular creators out there, just launched a restaurant. 15,000 people showed up at a mall. 15,000 people at a mall to get a burger.
Hope they had a lot of burgers.
15,000 people would show up to see Robert Downey Jr., even though he's made $1 billion in movies, right? I don't know. And maybe it's because people feel like they know Jimmy, Mr. Beast. They know his friends. They know where he lives. They see him every week. And so when I say let them know something they value, the mere fact that you're filming in your home, and you have your friends, and you have your family, and you're sharing your day, you can still make it a challenge. You make it exciting, but just inviting them into your world will allow people to be more engaged with your content. As opposed to shooting in a studio, right? Where it's just like a white backdrop, there's a studio, and we don't know anything about you.
That's actually what I would call personality marketing, because people are gravitating to the person probably even more so than what is going on in their content. And this goes back, this whole personality marketing concept goes way back. But like, for example, we have a newsletter that we send to our patients. And so I'll give updates about the latest medical things. One of my specialties is keratoconus, vision correction, LASIK. But I'll also put stuff about what I'm doing, a little article about me or about my kids. Our daughters are 16 now, twin girls. And patients come in, and they, most of the time, if they're going to comment on the newsletter, it's going to be, oh, how are the girls doing? Or, I used to row a lot competitively up to a couple of years ago. And how's the competitions? How are your training going? So people really, because, that's more social, it's not really social. Like you and I are having a real conversation. So that's really social. But it's almost like a parasocial relationship, which I mentioned in the book as well. And so people feel like they get to know the person, which is why it's so much more powerful, to your point about Mr. Beast, having 50,000 people, because they feel they know him, although he doesn't really know them, but it's a one-way parasocial relationship. And that's powerful.
Yeah, it is powerful. And the creators who understand that and are able to kind of build that relationship over time, because it's not, you don't have to do it in one video. You just continue to lay the groundwork every video.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Jordan, this has been an awesome discussion with you. Thank you so much for taking the time to share a lot of insights about your career and your family, and to help other people that are interested or just wanting to hear great inspirational insights from somebody who's been around the block in many blocks. You've been around a few blocks, actually.
I've been around a few. You didn't mention my black eye. I got this.
Oh.
In case anybody thinks YouTube is fake, I got this during a YouTube video.
Well, how did you get that? You guys can't leave us hanging.
It was a hide and seek, and it was a dark room, and I went running into a pole. Nothing exciting. I wish I was like defending my wife's honor or something.
Well, I appreciate the black eye. Little ice there will help it go away faster. And arnica.
That's what I did. Yeah, we're at the end. We're at the end of it now.
Okay, good. All right, Jordan, thanks again, and really appreciate it. Much gratitude for you, and say hi to Hudson and everyone else.
I sure will. Thanks. Have a great day.
Okay, we'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye-bye.
How amazing was Jordan in sharing all those incredible personal insights, but also professional insights, because he's someone who has been around, as I said, not just the block, but multiple blocks. So a lot of insight and experience and wisdom. I'm very grateful that he took the time to be on the show. If you want to learn more about previous topics that we've covered, look back in the catalog of the Health Show. And we're going to have another really interesting, fascinating guest next time on the show. And we'll be covering a health video and make it very insightful and very fun. I'll see you then.